Welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thank you so much for tuning in here on Tuesday, November 5th. Remember to get out there and vote. Final day. So, I've quite frankly gotten sick and tired of talking about the different coaching issues for the Jaguars week after week. We do it every single week, even in the weeks they've won. There's been issues, right? So, I'm going to start with an early look at some top head coaching candidates for the Jaguars in 2025 because, that's necessary. Even if the Jaguars pulled off a miracle and won the next 8 games, it's time to move in a different direction. Bottom line, it is. And they're not going to do that. So we're going to look at some coaching candidates. Got a nice list of folks here today. This is early. This is not definitive. There's going to be a lot more work that goes into it between now and when the Jaguars ever do move on from their current head coach, hire a new head coach. So this is just to get you familiar with some of these guys, some of the guys that could be candidates for the Jacksonville Jaguars should they move on from their current coaching staff. We're going to take a look at some of these head coaching candidates. And the bottom line here is whoever it is, it's got to be a coach that is in lockstep with the front office. This needs to be a unified group that is in lockstep, that has the same vision and is there for each other and has each other's back, because that's not what you have in Jacksonville right now. Bottom line, you've never had that with Trent Baalke as general manager. So my top head coaching candidates as of right now, I think number one is the easiest possible selection. It's Ben Johnson, and he's been courted by multiple teams over multiple years. Any team out there, the fan base that's praying for Ben Johnson to be their next head coach, probably need the Lions to go win a Super Bowl, or maybe at least get to the Super Bowl, right? This year, which they have a great shot at doing. I think Ben Johnson, the way he built his offense around his skill position talent, and let's be clear, just being a good offensive coach is not the only prerequisite to being a good head coach. You have to be a great leader as well. And I think Ben Johnson has learned from the best in that regard when it comes to the head coach he's been working for in Detroit for quite some time, Dan Campbell. But another thing that needs to be made clear, the Detroit Lions have had the benefit of a fantastic offensive line, and Ben Johnson has had the benefit of a fantastic offensive line and a lot of good talent as well. So you can't just say take Ben Johnson out of Detroit, plop him somewhere else, and it's going to be all sunshine and roses from the jump. No, you've got to get him the tools he needs, and Shad Khan is willing to do that. And so that's why you need not only Ben Johnson, but someone that has the same vision as Ben Johnson for the football team, right? But if you give him a quality offensive line, a plus offensive line, and add a little bit more skill position talent, in my opinion, to the receiver room, yeah, they could cook with gas, no doubt about it, in Jacksonville. So I think Ben Johnson would be a fantastic hire. He's going to be the hottest name on the market, if he even is technically on the market. We'll see, right? Another coach that I've been a huge fan of since what he did with Joe Burrow at LSU, Joe Brady. Joe Brady, I thought he got scapegoated out of Carolina early on during his time there as the OC. Kind of had to work his way back up to being an offensive coordinator, got that job with the Bills midway last year, and it has been full steam ahead for that offense. And they don't have as much skill position talent outside of the quarterback position, of course. Josh Allen, who is just unbelievable, as a team like Detroit. I think that Joe Brady could get the most out of what Jacksonville has. And again, if you're able to hire him, bring in a general manager, EVP, whatever it may be, that, again, can have the same vision for the offense, that could be huge. And whether it's Ben Johnson or Joe Brady, if it's an offensive minded head coach, they've got to bring along with them somebody who is really good on the defensive side of the ball as well. You really need that two-headed monster to become a team that can compete for Super Bowls. Quite frankly, you just do. You need really good coordinators or coaches on both sides. Um, you've seen that in recent years. I mean, the Chiefs have been absolutely stacked with Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo, right? You've seen the Ravens, right? They have good coordinators on both sides. You have Todd Monken dialing it up on offense. You've had great defensive coaches roll through Baltimore as well. Most recently, Mike McDonald, who's now a head coach. So, and a bunch of guys that are now, they were assistants there and now they're coordinators elsewhere. So, and the list goes on and on. Like when the Eagles went to the Super Bowl, both of those guys were great coordinators. They went and got hired to be head coaches. The Lions, they have Ben Johnson and they have Aaron Glenn. So you got to have both. You absolutely do have to have both. And I think that Joe Brady would be a good start. And quite frankly, who these guys would want to bring with them is a huge factor as well. Not only as, the head coach and front office pairing, but head coach and coordinator pairing. Like, what's your idea for that? My next guy up here is a defensive coach, and it's Jesse Minter, who has spent time with Baltimore, is now the Los Angeles Chargers defensive coordinator. He's worked with both Harbaugh brothers. I love that because they're both great NFL head coaches, and I think he would just bring an attacking defensive style that evolves week to week, that really gets the most out of his players. He's able to simplify complex game plans into digestible assignments for these players that they're able to understand and do a really good job with. And I think Jesse Minter is just an absolute rising star in this league. So I think that would be a lot of fun. And maybe if you get a Jesse Minter, you can get someone from the Ozzie Newsome tree as GM. I think those guys usually work out pretty darn well. They've been brought up in the scouting and roster building world under some of the best, right? So we're going to get to the rest of this list, but first got to tell you all about Underdog Fantasy. For Pick'em, Best Ball, a whole lot more, you can use code Duval Daily, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit on their easy-to-use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com. This season, Underdog's going to be running a special promo or bonus almost every single day. Like Profit Boost. Pump up your winnings in just a tap when you apply the boost to eligible entries. There's tons of options for Jaguars Vikings coming up. You can take a look at Trevor Lawrence's on yards. You can perhaps pick Tank Bigsby to score. Or maybe you're looking at Aaron Jones. Underdog has vulture protection to rescue your pick'em. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code Duval Daily to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply, void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona 1-800-NEXT-STEP. That's 1-800-639-8783 or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. So, getting back to this list of head coaching candidates, guys that I would be interested in. And I think looking at that list, the first three guys I mentioned are the guys I would absolutely be most interested in. Because Joe Brady, I think what he could do for Trevor Lawrence would be fantastic. Same thing with Ben Johnson, right? And then Jesse Minter, as I mentioned, I think that the way he's able to coach defense and be multiple, get the most out of guys and really grow that culture and that system is huge. The next guy up for me, the next two guys I would be really fired up about. Not as much as the top three I just mentioned, but I would be excited about the next two guys. And the next one, I don't know how popular of a name he'll be amongst fans, but I think Kellen Moore would be a really good head coach. I think that he's got the demeanor for it. I think that he's been around enough good quarterbacks and good offenses, and I think he would bring an offense that's modern, that helps Trevor Lawrence, that gives him options, right? And again, He just brings a lot of the answers that the Jaguars aren't currently providing in their offensive system to the quarterback. And you've seen that over multiple stops now. You've seen improvement in specific areas, blitz pickup, pressure, like recognizing when there's somebody hot and making sure you can attack behind that. Like, I think Kellen Moore can be he is a very good offensive coach. And I like his demeanor. I like the way he communicates. I think that if he was able to come in and be your head coach and bring in one of those defensive guys we've talked about that can get the job done, that would be huge. Aaron Glenn, up next, defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, played in Jacksonville for a brief period of time. But Aaron Glenn, leader, culture, great defensive coordinator, type of guy you want leading your group. So I think that could be a really good hire as well. And a lot of folks are really interested in the Detroit Lions front office, and rightfully so. If you got Aaron Glenn or Ben Johnson, both of those guys could potentially bring over someone from Detroit to be the GM with them. And I'm not saying that they would make the decision, but you could hire those guys together potentially, and that could make a lot of sense and bring cohesion to this organization. The next two I'm intrigued by. As head coaches, I'm a little terrified of what it would mean, and that's Bill Belichick and Mike Vrabel, and I grouped them together for obvious reasons. They're both defensive guys. Vrabel played under Belichick for a very long time. I think that they're both good culture guys, differently, but I do think that they both could bring a good culture. I think that what would terrify me about them is what they would do on the offensive side of the ball from a coordinator standpoint. Both of them have not done well in that regard in the last couple years of their tenures, right? So, Bill Belichick made absolutely horrific decisions late on the offensive side of the ball with who was going to be running that side of the ball. And I think Mike Vrabel kind of did too. So that's what would worry me. Now, from a leadership, from a defensive mindset, culture, work ethic, do your job, as Bill Belichick says, from all those standpoints, I think that these two guys would be fantastic, but I would be terrified about what they're going to do on the offensive side of the ball to support the most important player that this franchise has had, right? And that is Trevor Lawrence. So, intriguing. Before I could sign off on it, I would absolutely have to know what they're doing on the offensive side of the ball. Like, bottom line. If they were able to land coordinators that I felt comfortable with, sure. Yeah, I'd be here for it. But they're lower on the list than the rest of these other guys for me. Even though they've done it at a high level. Both of them have been, incredibly successful coaches. I worry about them, but would love to see Ben Johnson, Joe Brady, Jesse Minter, Kellen Moore, Aaron Glenn. There's some other guys that are out there that could potentially be candidates. I didn't mention Cliff Kingsbury because I think he's done a fantastic job with Jaden Daniels. I worry about him as a head coach because, quite frankly, he has not been a successful head coach anywhere, college or pro. So he would still be a little bit lower on my list. But do I think he could do some fun things with Trevor Lawrence in the offense? Yeah, I do. I definitely do. But that's going to do it for this coaching list for now. And again, this is early. So a lot of room to grow this list, a lot of time to continue looking over guys. And don't forget, whoever it is, if they're an offensive coach, they need a great defensive coach. If they're a defensive coach, they need a great offensive coach. And whoever it is, they need to have a front office that has the same exact vision for the football team that they have. So really appreciate y'all. If you enjoy the content, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. If you want to support the channel further, you can check out ginjag.com/shop, pick up some Duval gear, or become a channel member here on YouTube. Y'all have a good one.